Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Zone Star State podcast. I'm Matthew Bruni. Joining me once again is Ishmael Johnson. And today we are joined by the head coach of TCU women's basketball, Mark Campbell. Coach, how are you today?
Hey, doing good. We just finished up practice not too long ago and just got back from a quick lunch and a coffee. So it's a good day so far.
Yes, perfect. Well, we can start off real quick with last season, new year, new program, all that stuff. 21-12 overall, 6-12 in conference. We talked about it a lot on this show. Just what y'all went through with the injuries and whatnot. But just what was last year what was it like for you just as a whole?
Yeah, last year was we laid a great foundation. We took over a program that had gone 1-17 the year prior. Ended up having the biggest turnaround in the country at the Power 4 level, and so we got the thing going in the right direction. And I think we laid an incredible foundation for year two. And if you rewind, I think we got off to the best start in school history. We were 14-0, and then those injuries unfolded, and those injuries and the rest of the journey that season kind of galvanized the group, and had some players that had to step up, and majority of those kids are all back. And so I think a lot of the payoff is for this upcoming year. We're a very veteran group with a core group that we returned, and then we're blending that with another really talented group that we inherited from the portal.
Yeah, last year, just you mentioned some of the groups that had to step up last year, some of them returning, Agnes Emanopu, Aaliyah Roberson. What did you see from them, especially that I was at the UCF game, kind of when it all kind of culminated and you had the walk-ons and tryouts and all these things, like in that game in particular, but also from that point going forward with those players that I just mentioned, what did you see out of them to be able to, because you mentioned it, still finishing with 20-plus wins after all of that happened? What you see from those players that kind of helped that end up being the result?
They're a resilient group, a gritty group. We weren't the most talented squad every game, but we were hard to kill, and that was our goal. And we changed our whole system and style of play and went to a 5-out motion. And these kids, they figured it out. They made no excuses. And we were able to grind out some wins and make it to the postseason. And so, Una, Aaliyah, Agnes, those three players had massive roles and gained a lot of confidence from that season. That's going to carry us into year two.
Yeah, we've talked about a lot how smart of a basketball mind you are, how much offensively you're comfortable with what you can do and your ability to adapt. What was last year like in terms of figuring out what the heck we're doing here with all the different players coming in and out, challenging you as a coach, learning new things and trying new things as well?
Yeah, well, I won't take all the credit, man. I got an unbelievable staff. My associate head coach, Xavi, has been with me. We've been working together for 11 years now. And Xavi's from Barcelona, Spain, grew up in Europe, played in the EuroLeague and professionally for a long time. So Xavi's got a really unique perspective on the game of basketball, on understanding kind of modern basketball and how it's become positionless, and you got to be versatile. And so Xavi's the one that really started trying to piece together, okay, after the injuries, here are the advantages we have. These are the players we need to make sure we're putting them in the proper actions and space for them to be able to create for us. And Xavi really put that puzzle together. And then Mignon, our assistant, Mignon Moore was the starting point guard for us when we were at Oregon. Her and Sabrina Ionescu were the backcourt together. Mignon oversees the defense and is just a fiery, competitive, great leader. And we had to scrap. We're undersized. Aaliyah was our starting center. And so then defensively, you also had to figure out a scheme of how to survive and play small ball. And so Mignon gets a lot of credit. And so our staff worked really, really hard to put the puzzle together. And we were able to do that. And so I'm thankful for our kids and them being willing to adapt and not put you could have folded up shop, You know, you easily could have. You brought in 4 walk-ons that were, you know, just walking around campus, and you needed them to be able to practice. And so you had all the excuses if you wanted to limp across the finish line. And these kids and our staff, they didn't. They did everything but the opposite of that.
Yeah, I was at the, like I mentioned, the UCF game where you talked about how you guys basically installed a 5-out in like a couple days just to kind of get things going. And I was like, geez, that is like, go back. Like, what was that week like? Because you mentioned it. You had walk-ons who basically just suited out that game. They didn't play except for I think Sarah Sylvester did.
Sarah checked in.
Yeah, she checked in. But it was still like, okay, we have like maybe 6 or 7 players that can really play. So it's like, what was that? Do you remember what that week was like?
I remember it vividly, unfortunately. There's just a huge, what you don't understand is you can't just go pick up a kid from campus. Right. Number one, there's a huge onboarding process with compliance and academics. None of their class schedules lined up with our practice slot. So obviously way on the front end, right? You're getting those things organized. As simple as it sounds, you had these 4 kids you took from the tryouts.
Yeah.
They couldn't even come to practice. They were on the team. Okay, we got them.
Right.
Their class, it doesn't work. So we had to redo the whole class schedule. So stuff that you don't even think of. And then there's eligibility issues. They have to do all the paperwork and the physicals to get cleared from a liability standpoint. Then this minor detail, they're not in shape. Yeah. Some of them haven't played basketball in 2 years, right? Like they're drinking Starbucks, eating Chicken Express, going to class. So it's not like they're in Big 12 shape.
Yeah.
So and you don't want them to get injured. So you have to slowly progress them from ground zero to being able to compete and play and practice without injuring themselves or our players. And then it's just a simple stuff, you know. It wasn't the preseason, it's mid-year, right? So we did all of our shell drill, our basic principles that you do in October. These kids don't know any of that stuff, and we don't have time to go back and retrain from ground zero. So there were a lot of layers to it that you're not even aware of until you walk through it.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember, I mean, for those that don't know, you guys obviously went on to win that game, a UCF game, which was probably one of the best moments, in my opinion, in the country last year, was just that immediate after effect. You know, looking back, you mentioned the players coming back, you know, somebody like an Agnes, Aaliyah, and then Una. Now, with them combined with the healthy players you have coming back, plus the transfers you brought in, of course, we'll talk about a few in a bit. Like now you go from having not enough to like, okay, how do you find minutes and balance for a team this deep now?
Yeah. We've great question. We're working through that right now. And I think now you've changed your style of play. So you had to slow the pace. You had to control the tempo to be able to stay in the fight against teams. And now this year, with the talent that we have and the roster that we have, you want to create tempo. We want to play really fast. We want a lot of possessions. We want to get after teams. And now our depth is to our advantage. And so now you're kind of redoing your style of play again. And I think that's, you guys, I think that's college athletics. Today's modern era, because of the portal, I don't care what sport it is, you're going to have a new roster every year. And can you put the puzzle together? Can you get them to be cohesive on the offense and defensive end? And can you do that quickly? And for us, it needs to happen right away because our preseason schedule, you guys, is loaded.
Specifically, we had specifically Madison Connor and Sedona Prince, 2 players that, you know, were injured for parts of last year. The 2 leaders, you know, when y'all were rolling before. What have you seen from them in coming into this year, you know, as upperclassmen and with a new cast around them?
Yeah, well, I believe they're the only duo in the country. You guys will need to double check it, but that's returning as 20-point scores. So to have a duo like that is rare in college basketball. And so their leadership, and they get it. They've been through the grind. They're old veterans. And they went through the Big 12 a year ago. So all of us got a year under our belt, and we have an understanding of the task that's ahead of us. And so they had an incredible offseason. They had a great summer and fall, and have set a great example of the work ethic, the grind that it takes. And then we're old, you guys. Like we got to be one of the oldest teams rosters in college basketball, and so there's a maturity that comes with that. This group's very businesslike. They show up, they work, they do a great job with their treatment. They get in before or after to get up their extra shots, and so we've come a long ways in 1 year. I mean, it's been 18 months from that 1-17 season. So we've got the thing going in the right direction really quickly.
Yeah. Of course, one of the big losses you guys had was Jaden Owens, your point guard. Really, I remember watching Media Day last year, and you guys were very open about the offense is going to go around her in terms of like being the point guard in the pick and roll. And, without her, obviously you go and get, somebody who's very veteran in Maddie Scherr, but also a ball handler in Hailey Van Lith. We were wondering, like me and Bruni were kind of wondering in the offseason, we're like, a lot of really good guards, because you mentioned Connor and you mentioned Jovanovic as well, and then you mentioned Agnes. But then I started to make sense. I was like, I don't know. Agnes kind of played a little bit of small ball four a little bit, so it's like, is that something that's maybe gonna come into play as well? As you kind of balance all this talented backcourt you have.
Yeah, great question. You're spot on though. A lot of it's going to be small ball, 4 guards, 4 out, which is where we want to create tempo. We're going to be able to press and get in passing lanes and really get the game going. I think our group of guards that we have is as good as anybody in college basketball. I really believe that. And so we're spacing the court. We can really shoot it. Last year we were very reliant on Jaden. Jaden had a gift as a playmaking guard. Her vision, her IQ, her feel was incredible. So we wanted Jaden to be in as many pick and rolls as we could put her in, and she created stuff for the whole team. This year, the balance, we got to be much more balanced because there's so many players that can create and attack for each other. Obviously, Hailey's the lead guard and the dynamic playmaking guard, but like you said, there's a long list of players we have this year that can really help, which we're learning how to compete and play hard while you're on the court, because when you need a sub, there's another good one coming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, with the amount of guard talent y'all have, obviously it'll be versatile. Talking about Hailey in particular, last year was such a different year for her and her role at LSU. But can you tell that now she has kind of a little bit of the best of both worlds in terms of the scorer she was at Louisville, and then playing on that LSU team, trying to be a point guard and trying to do it both? Does that help her in this situation?
No question. Hailey's whole journey, the good and bad, the highs and lows, is what's made her who she is. And she is such a resilient, tough kid. And then you add in the Olympics on top of the Louisville experience, LSU experience. She was the only college basketball player, male or female, that played for Team USA this summer. And so what an incredible life experience she had to go compete and bring home a medal for our country, playing with a bunch of old professionals. And then just the experience. Team USA rented out a Marriott hotel, hired private security. And so, that's Team USA women's 5-on-5 players and men's 5-on-5 players, and then the women's 3-on-3, men's 3-on-3. So, I mean, she's down there spending time with Sabrina Ionescu and Taurasi and getting breakfast, and you got Steph and LeBron down there. And so what an incredible experience for a college kid to be in that environment and be around those athletes. I think that was as much of a springboard after the LSU season as I don't know what better springboard you could have that can go get your swag and confidence back at the Olympics. So it was really fun. I got to be there for a week and watch her compete and play. And she was incredible. I think she was named to the all-tournament team or all-Olympic team, one of 3 players. So she had a great experience over there. And that's carried over. And for our team to see Hailey train and prepare heading into the Olympics, she was doing 3 a days. She'd work out in the morning, then she'd have her weightlifting, and then she'd come back and do her individual work. And so for our players to see the grind that Hailey was on to get ready for the Olympics has elevated our team.
Speaking of that, with her and then Sedona and yourself as well, and you mentioned Minion being part of teams that have either come close or done things at a really high level. Obviously, I think your guys' best team, I think, got cut short for COVID, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
right. I
I
was always very, very mad that we never got to see that Oregon team at its best. But like, how much does that help, having people who have been around those winning situations help translate that to players who maybe haven't been there or maybe haven't been at that level yet?
For sure, it helps a lot. That level is so unique in what it takes to get there, in the process. Majority of our staff was a part of that 2020 Oregon team that was #1 in the country, and COVID cut the NCAA tournament short. And then Hailey's played at the highest level at Louisville and LSU, and then obviously Sedona was a part of that 2020 team. She was redshirting that season. And so to understand what it takes to get there, the process, the work ethic, the maturity and focus. And then there's some dumb luck too. You got to keep your team healthy.
Sure.
That goes into that. And obviously your locker room and your culture has to be right in order to get to that level. So we have a roster and a staff that's done that. And so that's a huge advantage this group has. And I think our maturity is one of our greatest strengths. This group is special. They really, really get along. In regards to the teams that I've got to coach and be a part of, it's as good as any team I've ever been around in regards to that. And that's hard to get in today's modern world of college athletics with the turnover of adding players and losing players. And we nailed that piece. And so that I know that's going to help us a lot over this journey, and it'll be fun. It'll be fun. We're just getting started. I mean, I think we're halfway exactly. I think we're 21 days out, 3 weeks from today from college basketball officially tipping off. And so we got a lot of work to do. I do know one thing: you got to defend and rebound if you want to be playing late in March. And so this group's got a lot of work to do to grow in those two areas.
Yeah, that was my next question actually, was where is it that you've been challenging this group the most, I guess, just in the first few weeks, and now knowing y'all have 3 weeks ahead of y'all, what is those areas where you're like still harping on them repeatedly?
Yeah, good question. So you returned 6 and then you added 6 from the portal. So first step is just getting the group to really get to know each other. And that starts over the summertime and then rolls into the fall. And so that's step one, because it doesn't matter what your X's and O's are if the team hasn't gelled and come together as a group. And so we've really invested in that process and that journey. And then the next piece is figuring out, okay, here are the pieces of the puzzle, and we got to put together our style of play. And that's one of the funnest parts of each year, because your roster changes so much. You got to take it 1 year at a time. And figure out what's best for this group. And so we always start offensively. We the first couple of weeks, we pour into the offensive side of the ball and get that right before we add in the defensive piece. And so right now, we're 3 weeks into it. And so the next 3 weeks is really pouring into the defensive side of the ball and in the rebounding aspects and getting that stuff dialed in. College basketball, you get 2 scrimmages, close scrimmages against Division I opponents. You can do 2 exhibition games, or you can split it 1-on-1. And so for us, we're playing 2 close scrimmages against really good programs. And so those are kind of behind the scenes. You get to test yourself, and you get great game film, and you watch those and study those, and then you get back in the lab and you keep working.
You mentioned the non-conference schedule. So was the Big 12 not hard enough, or what? How does Notre Dame and South Carolina end up on the non-conference?
I mean, great question.
NC State too, Ish. Don't
NC
forget
State
NC
too,
State
geez,
and
yeah, I forgot
Texas
about that.
State and USF.
Yeah, so NC State, they slipped through. They were in the Final Four a year ago and returned everybody. So as we build this program, you can't skip steps, and so you inherited this 1-17 team. Then year one, you have the biggest turnaround in college basketball at the Power Four. Okay, how do we make another jump? And so in order to do that, I'm a huge believer in you got to compete against the best. And there's nobody better than Coach Staley and what she's built at South Carolina. And they're number one team in the country, and they've won 2 national championships in the last 3 years. And I could be off on this fact check. I think they're 110-3 in the last 3 seasons. And so we had an opportunity to play a neutral site game against them in Fort Worth. What an incredible opportunity for our program, for our players to go compete against that team and that coaching staff. And it'll be just a great opportunity. And so that's how that game came about. And then the NC State game is going to be a home-and-home series. It starts here in Fort Worth this year at the Schollmeyer, and then we'll return the game the following year. And Coach West has done an amazing job over there. And then we're going to go to the Cayman Islands. And so you try to play one tournament each year, either during Thanksgiving time or Christmas time. That allows the team to get away and play a couple games and have a road trip and a bonding experience. So we picked the Cayman Islands. When you do that, you don't always know who your opponents are going to be. Most of the time you sign up for it and you don't always know, right?
Yeah.
Well, we got Notre Dame and Coach Ivy and a top 10 team in the country. So that's how that game unfolded. And again, it's just for us, and where we're at and what we're trying to build, these are just awesome opportunities to compete against the best programs in college basketball. Yeah. And so I know our players are super excited. Our coaching staff's excited, and we're going to figure things out. We're going to learn and grow from those. And ask me after we play those 3 games if I think it was smart scheduling or not. But no, and it's created a lot of excitement for our fan base. Yeah. I know season tickets are at an all-time high. And so there's a lot of buzz and excitement, and we're got a lot of momentum going right now with TCU here in Fort Worth.
Yeah, especially having those 2 games in Fort Worth is awesome. So, well, Coach, predicted 4th in the Big 12, somehow left outside the top 25. But who cares? You're in our ballot. I still don't have a ballot somehow for the top 25.
Hey, I don't even know how the voters pick top 25 now because of the portal. I mean, it's a guess.
Yeah, it's a great point.
Hey, it's the same way we do this podcast before the year, telling you what you're going to go and how many wins you're going to have, all right? That's
fine. We know what we're talking about, though. That's the difference.
I mean, college athletics, trying to predict how teams are going to be, because there's so many factors, and chemistry is as important as any of the factors that go into a winning season.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, yeah, it's comical to me. It's all fun to try to make the predictions and whatnot. Yeah. But the coaches poll, I think we're picked 4th. Big 12's absolutely loaded. Holy smokes! I mean, K-State, Iowa State, Baylor, West Virginia. Goodness, they all got their best players coming back, and coaching staffs
add in Arizona this year.
And then let's throw in Colorado, Utah, and Arizona that are perennial top 25 programs, Sweet 16 teams. Yeah. So the women's side, it's a gauntlet. I don't even want to think about that yet. Let's just get through preseason.
It is awesome. It is awesome. Basketball's almost here. Coach, thank you for joining us. Best of luck this season. We really appreciate you coming on. We'll be tuned in.
Hey, thanks for having me, you guys, and hopefully you can pop into some of these games. It's going to be a special season, and we got something brewing down here in Fort Worth, so come support the crew.
Ish is right up the street.
I'm right up the street, so I will definitely try to do that.
Let me know when you come. I'll get you some good seats.
I appreciate you.
Of course.
See, this is like the 5th coach I've told him. Ish is coming.
He's signing me up for
going to every game.
Yep, you reach out and let me know anytime you're in town and want to come to a game. We'll take care of you.
Let's do it.
Yo.
I'm there.
All right, you guys.
Thanks, Coach.
Appreciate it.
Have a great week.
For sure.
You too.